Hi folks. Recently between the nations of South Korea and Japan, in the Sea of Japan, there's been some disagreement taking place, shall we call it, over the islands of Takeshima, as they're called in Japan, and Dokdo, as they're called in South Korea, currently occupied by the South Koreans. Well, the Prime Minister of Japan says to the President of South Korea, how about we take this issue to the International Court? And the President of South Korea says, no, there's no need to take it to an international court because we occupy the islands and they're our islands. So the Prime Minister of Japan sends the President a letter. The letter gets to him and he refuses to accept it, saying, send it back across the Sea of Japan to Tokyo. We're not accepting it. So an envoy takes it to the Japanese Prime Minister and he refuses to take the letter back. It belongs to South Korea. So now we have this letter here, kids. A letter without a country. But you know something? It was an insult. How do you not accept the letter from another head of state? Two legitimate heads of state here we have here. Two countries that have mutual interests we have here. And one's refusing to accept communication from another. That is terrible. That is an insult. The worst of enemies accept communications between one another when it comes to heads of state. If the idiot in North Korea sent a letter to the president in South Korea, he'd accept that now, wouldn't he? If the thugs in Beijing sent a letter to South Korea, he'd read that now, would he not? But an ally, a friend, that they both enjoy a mutually benefit relationship, he refuses to open the letter, to accept the letter, and it did not stop there. The Japanese in Tokyo are placing calls to the South Korean embassy in Tokyo, and the South Koreans refuse to answer the phone. Hello? We're not answering that phone. What are you, nuts? It's only those Japanese. Forget about it. You're stupid. You're behaving stupid. This is an ally. And you know, I've got to compliment the Prime Minister of Japan for keeping emotion out of it and trying to keep this issue low-key and diffuse the emotion that has been placed into it by the South Korean leadership. Now we talk about these islands as to who really owns the islands, right? Well, I have here a telegram that settles the whole thing. And I know a lot of you are probably saying, really? Oh, as we say in Japan, Majikayo! Here's the telegram, kids. It's 4 pages. Shun brought this to my attention. It appeared on a Japanese website, I think a blog. When I looked at it and I read it, I became very curious about the origins of this letter and as to why the person who posted it, how did he even know this existed? This is a telegram from Douglas MacArthur. That's right, the nephew of General Douglas MacArthur, who was a diplomat in Japan, and he sends this telegram in 1960 to the U.S. State Department. Now, before I get into this telegram, I was curious about this because, as we know, on the internet, forgery is rather easy. So I sent this telegram to Washington, D.C., the National Archives. And an archivist in the National Archives, let me explain to you the National Archives. It's the it's the depository of almost all written documentation in these United States by the government. The archivist at the National Archives, he validated this. This is an authentic copy of the original telegram that was sent by Douglas MacArthur, nephew to General Douglas MacArthur. And in here, now you got to understand now, in 1960 as well as now, the United States is neutral when it comes to South Korea and Japan because both South Korea and Japan are valuable allies and trusted allies to the United States. And we also see that they're mutually beneficial to one another. So we try not to take issues in the government, our government, tries not to take issues, but tries to diffuse it. However, Douglas MacArthur in this telegram points out Takashima and the Sea of Japan belongs to the Japanese, and our government, the United States, should have pressured the South Koreans to get off those islands and give it back to the Japanese. This, to me, settles the issue. Those islands belong to Japan. That's it. Enough said about that. Speaking of which, General Douglas MacArthur, he kept Japan free of communism, and he kept South Korea free of communism and ran the communists out that were there. Well, there's a statue of General MacArthur in Incheon, South Korea that was paid for by the citizens, I think in 1957. Beautiful statue and a beautiful park. Well, in 2005, 4,000 South Koreans demonstrated there because they wanted that statue to be torn down. Take down General Douglas MacArthur. The nerve of him keeping us communists free. Well, I said that, but that's what I interpret the anti-Douglas MacArthur rant to be. But guess what? 7 years ago they did that. They're coming back today. They're planning demonstrations to take that statue down up and through September. Now, that's not all South Koreans. It's just a handful, a small number of morons in South Korea that are not grateful for the fact that the United States kept them free from communism. And now, to you South Koreans, either in South Korea or the United States, who are littering my country with comfort woman plaques that are critical of Japan, this is what you should do. Instead of placing those plaques throughout the country, because the comfort woman issue, had nothing to do with the United States. So instead of placing those plaques littering the United States with them, why don't you place some monuments and memorials throughout the United States from South Korea in dedication to General Douglas MacArthur? And all you have to write on the plaque or memorial to the general is 2 words: thank you. And if you don't like the words thank you, perhaps you could say domo arigato gozaimasu. See, I provide you with an alternative. Alright folks, we'll see you. God bless you. God bless America. And God bless the nation you happen to be in. See ya.